Sir, how are you? Nice to see you.
Same here. I mean, every time you always see more charmful.
And your voice is the voice of God right now, echoing. Well, whenever you're ready,
There is bit echoing happening.
echoing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the S Factor Talk Show, episode 10. We're very glad to have all of you on board today. And I'm Pearl D'Souza, and I'm also a member of the S Factor Talk Show. And I'd like to welcome all of you to the talk show, episode 10 today. To begin with, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the S Factor. The S Factor is all about discussing and deliberating with key influencers and thought leaders on how to make our society positive and progressive. The goal of the S Factor is to spread positivity and discuss current issues which are of interest to the public. The talk show has gone global and we are in over 20 countries, less than a month of its inception. And without, I'd like to share with you all our previous episodes. So today our session is Reflect, Rethink and Recreate, and we have wonderful panelists Anand BR, Shravani Dang, Shruti Bopaya, Ira Pradhan, Swati Bhattacharya and Melissa Arulappan. And here is a glimpse of all the previous episodes that we have had on the S Factor Talk Show. Today is a really landmark moment for us because it's the 10th episode of the S Factor. And we're very excited that you all are with us on this journey. And now I'd like to hand it over to Shekhar to introduce our speakers for the day. Over to you, Shekhar.
Thanks, Pearl. Before we start, I will tell you all of you that today is a very interesting topic, like Pearl mentioned. And
there's an echo. There's an echo when you speak.
Pearl, can you help us out on this? There's an echo which is happening right now, or
it's better now.
Fine now, sure.
Yeah, I think Pearl, what you need to do is need to put everybody on mute. Just put everybody on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we are better now, right? And I would request everybody else, please be on mute when the discussion is going on. So it's only us who are talking in more ways than one. Now, as I was talking, my name is Shekhar Vijayan. Pearl, thanks for introducing me, but that's okay. I'm an actor. I'm only aim to make my dog laugh while the echoes around me. I have to tell all of you this today is the 10th episode, and this episode is very interesting because we have had, in a little more than a month, we have had some very, very interesting panelists have come. We have spoken about topics which not many people really talk about. We've spoken about being kind in today's day and age. We've spoken about apolitical discussions, breaking barriers in leadership and making it more inclusive. We've spoken about How Modi Stole My Mask, which is basically a book discussion we had with the wonderful Savio Rodriguez and Amit Bagaria. We had The Real World was the Real World, where we had a very heated, I won't say heated discussion, but we had a very animated discussion around whether OTT works or whether cinema works or whether theater works. Very interesting. We had the sustainability dilemma in the new normal, which is all about how we look at our environment and how we can take care of it. We also spoke about the yoga collective. We also spoke about discovering the beyond, where we spoke about astronomy, science fiction, and faith, which was very interesting. There was a confluence of all three of them. We also spoke about conscious leadership, because leadership can take various forms. And when we spoke about conscious leadership, we had the great Bhaskar Rao, with the wonderful Ian Faria joining us, and Sammy, who's an international coach and an author, who joined us from from Dubai for this. And today we've got Reflect, Rethink, and Recreate. And today I would like to warmly welcome all of you, along with my partner in arms, that is Samira Fernandez, on this wonderful day today. So this discussion is going to be very interesting. We've got a lot of educationalists who joined us on the call. We've got a lot of students who joined us on the call. We've got people from the media who joined us on the call. We've got people from all parts of the world who joined us on this call, from places as far as Japan, as far as Australia, as far as US, of course, India, and even from Sri Lanka, I suppose. So it's going to be a packed next 1 hour. And on that note, I'm going to introduce our speakers. So I have the next person I'm going to introduce somebody I know really well, and somebody who's got a perennial smile on his face, because I think he's very happy and very infectious in the way he approaches his work. His name is Anand Biar. Anand Biar of the prestigious, he's alumnus of the prestigious IIM Bangalore. He's an accomplished, results-oriented executive with demonstrated success in the retail and financial services industry. He has created and driven profitable business lines from scratch that has gone on to become mainstream, thus creating shareholder value. He frequently shares his experiences at industry forums. He is currently the co-founder and chief security officer of Ecoprocess India Private Limited and is currently based in Bangalore. I also know he's and he's a part of various startups across Bangalore. We warmly welcome Anand sir, and it's so nice to have you, sir, on this wonderful platform today.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you very much. And I congratulate you and your team for our 10th episode.
Thank you, sir.
We will go to see more than thousands of episodes. So
thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. We've also got Shramini Dang. Shramini Dang completed a post-graduation from the famed India Institute of Mass Comm, Delhi, which I think was a prize institute when I was growing up. I think everybody wanted to join IIMC, and I think, ma'am, it goes without saying. She's presently the founder board member at GWPR India, advisor to Agastya International Foundation, Thapar Varsity and Avanta, and board member to International NGO Charities Aid Foundation India. She's a double Lifetime Achievement Award winner and an online reputation specialist. She's a reputations and brand de-risker, analyst, and expert. Shramini ji, welcome to the wonderful show.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Sabira. And very nice to meet and make new friends. Just one correction, Shekhar. I am no longer associated with Avanta and Thapar University. I don't work there anymore. So just wanted to tell you that. But it's great to be here and to learn and hear of new perspectives. It will, I think, help me understand and learn new things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We've also got Shruti Bopaya. Shruti Bopaya has over 11 years of experience across recruitment, HR outsourcing, talent branding, and internal communications. She's currently the head of client engagement and corporate communications at Bridge Limited, Bangalore, and previously the AVP and global head for internal communications and HR consulting at Infosys, Bangalore. She has a postgraduate degree in HR from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, Pune, and a master's degree in labor laws and labor welfare from Symbiosis University. She's the only Indian who's been recognized as a game changer in 2012 by the Workforce Management. Shruti ma'am, welcome to this wonderful show. It's so nice to have you here. We have got some very accomplished performers, I would say, and I think game changers in more ways than one. Thank you, ma'am, for joining the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Samira, as we talk, over to you.
Always exciting to be here, and our weekly show that I really eagerly wait forward to, Reflect, Rethink, and Recreate, with very enterprising, dynamic thought leaders and key influencers that we have with us. And once again, a warm welcome to Anand Biar, Shravani Dang, and Shruti Bopaya. And while we welcome them, let me also introduce the rest of our amazing panelists. We have with us Ira Pradhan. She's been in the field of communications for over 15 years now, and she's worked in very diversified sectors such as, the healthcare, the IT services, the retail, consumer electronics, and automotive. Ira, how did you, kind of manage it all? It must be quite a diverse portfolio. But not just that, she is also currently the leader of internal communications, diversity, and inclusion at Freshworks Bangalore. And she's also previously worked in corporate communication sector with Mercedes-Benz Research Development. She's also a columnist for Reputation Today, the Darjeeling Chronicle, and the founder member of the Global Women in PR India. A warm welcome to you, Ira, to be with us today. Let me now also move on to Swati Bhattacharya, who's with us. She is the marketing communication strategy professional with over 20 years of experience in corporate relations, banking, branding, internal, external communications as well. And she too comes from very diverse fields of engineering, technology, FMCG, and the retail sectors. She is currently the Chief Communications and Brand Officer for the Bajaj Group in Mumbai, and she's worked with CK Birla, a group as well. She's also the winner of the ABP News Women Super Achiever Award for Brand Excellence, supported by the World Marketing Congress, and many more. And finally, one of the most amazing and dynamic ladies on our show, Melissa Arulappan. Well, Melissa, warm welcome to you on behalf of all of us here. And she is again having more than 3 decades in challenging and very exciting communications roles in the corporate and the consultancy sector across India. She is currently the communications head of US based human data science firm Equiva, or its IQVIA, and was earlier the vice president, director, development, corporate voice at Weber Shandwick, and prior to that with Glaxo India as well. Well, one thing that we need to know is she's also a member of the Global Women in PR India chapter, and a warm welcome to all of you for today's show. And without further ado, it's very important that before we continue, we would like to thank our partners Ecosol Global, Chevins Entertainment, Jagrati, Bhupalam Botanicals, Jude Debon, I Am Here, Elephant Marketing, Sunshine Bakers, IJ Enablers, Peppercoin, Cicada Media, Threadworks, eTransform, and we are currently live streamed by our media partner, News Karnataka. Over to you, Shekhar.
Thank you. And on that truth endures note, so the topic for the day is reflect, rethink, and recreate. And it's been a very, very, I think, interesting day. And as we kickstart the first question, this is a question which we can start with Mr. Anand, sir. So, we're all facing this situation right now, the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, we have adapted and adjusted to the situation. I know for one that my dog, my best friend, Sunshine, is really happy to see me more time indoors and outdoors. But I want to know from you, sir, how do you see the business environment changing to adapt the new normal? Well, can we unmute him, please?
Sir, you're muted. Could you please unmute yourself? Anand, sir.
Yeah. Well, it's very unprecedented time for all of us, and we have seen, something that there's nothing that that we had past data to prove that what we are currently today. In this situation, I mean, for us, the only good thing that happened here is that we could able to, as a startup, we could able to focus more on our building up our technology. And since we have been working in the area of smart city development, we've been working in the remote areas like Sikkim, in Karnataka, Belagavi. We could able to analyze and understand whatever that we learned in the past that still remotely also we can manage. Right, there are so many areas that we can develop, which we had earlier at a different notion that it has to be there in a similar passion that has to be done. But now that we had seen completely total different challenges, and we could able to progress well. with a lot of challenges though, but we could able to get a lot of each individual resource, especially when you know the startup environment is not like a large setup where you can depend on multiple resources. So multitasking and multi level delivery, what has actually has helped us to master in this particular situation.
Thank you, sir. And I think India, right behind you, agrees in toto with what you say. Masking and yes, sir. Swati, I would love your perspective also on this.
Yeah, so of course, the pandemic has really accelerated the use of modern technology, and that goes without saying. And it has changed everything, right? It's changed the way that our employees behave, the way that our customers behave. It has also changed the way that we do business. I think one important shift has been to purpose-led business strategy. And while a company's products and services are important, I think it has also become very important to look at what values you stand for and really talk about them. So that has been a key. I'm talking more from an organization point of view. That's been a key change, I think, of how organizations are doing business now. The other big focus has been crisis management, and organizations that manage well in what we know as the VUCA norm, right? This seems to be the real life representation of that now. So organizations that manage well in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous environment, they will really come out of this and still manage to thrive. So I think that has become something that organizations have started focusing on. And I think personally, of course, we talked about adaptability, talked about multitasking, talked about all these changes that we're working from home and all of that. And, a lot of these things, I think we can call it the great reset. It's a call to, change the way we do business. So all of this that has started, all this online commerce, the education, entertainment, healthcare, all this is not going to change. It's going to stay, right? So we really have to develop our businesses or develop the way that we do business or the way that we work starting from this. So I would say the change has been that the focus on purpose-led business, the focus has changed to being more agile in terms of crisis. And those I think are the big takeaways.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you were talking about purpose, and it got me thinking about Darjeeling. I mean, I thought about Darjeeling, I thought of Ira. Yeah,
I'm from Darjeeling too, actually. So both Ira and me, yes.
I think it's a beautiful place. It's very quaint, very clean. I felt when I'd gone there, and a lot of other cities can learn from Darjeeling about how you can have a purpose without really having a purpose per se. Because I think it's got its own beauty. Now, on that Darjeeling note, Ira, we would love your perspective too. How business is changing right now because of the pandemic.
I think that I'll agree with most of what Swati and Anand mentioned. Sorry, I'm just a little confused with the videos out here. So I totally agree that things have changed and all of that, but I really think that every once in a while there comes a time where things change. So this is not the first, and obviously this has been one of the most heartbreaking, let's say that, because it affected people. Otherwise, it could have been like an IT boom where people were not affected, but we changed the way we did things, So this time it was, it called for a different kind of leadership, a different kind of way we interact with people, and that's how businesses have changed. I also think that it kind of brought a reality check when it comes to posturing and talking about the brand. We had to get more real in that sense. So I think, that's my point of view.
Thank you so much. So we are real, we are purposeful, and there's character in it. Samira, over to you.
Yes, I think that's been a very interesting insight that has been shared. And I would like to ask Shruti Bopaya. Shruti, how important is image building and reputation management? Keeping in mind that, companies are disrupted, organizations are changing their strategies. communications, the entire role of communications has changed with work from home and internal communications also taking more precedence as well as external. So, my question to you is how important is reputation management and personal branding in today's day and age?
So, Samira, I think we should think about this as inside out, whether it is us as individuals or organizations. I think it is about, are you doing it first and then speaking about it, right? So, the inside out. And I think right now, post COVID, a lot of things changed for a lot of people, right? It literally put people in this whole what I would call between languishing and resilience as an individual. You had to cope with so many things that you had no idea about. So there were a lot of people who made the most of it, built built their, I wouldn't say built their reputation, but just stayed on, right? And tried to just stay in the game. But organizations, on the other hand, there were many organizations that did right by the employee, right? That put the employee or people at the heart of their strategy. And I think those kind of organizations didn't have to worry about image building because they did it right. They thought about people and by just getting some of their people, policies, processes right, they didn't really have to worry about first going out there talking, handling PR and things like that. Of course, crisis came into something that everyone had to deal with. But if they did it inside out, I think pretty much whether you as an individual or as an organization, I think everyone can cope with what we think about reputation management.
And keeping reputation management at the forefront, I would like to ask Melissa. Melissa, you have been known as one of the 100 most important professionals in 2020 by Reputation Today. And I want to ask you, while Shruti talks about inside, outside, and having this and keeping it actionable, what according to you, are maybe the top 3 areas that a person or a company needs to look at to enhance this reputation? Melissa, you're on mute. If you could.
Like everyone else has said, and I want to go back to the previous question because I think that correlates with how I want to answer this. I think 2 or 3 big changes that we've seen over this pandemic has been the whole definition of workplace, right? So the workplace is now not confined to a physical workplace as defined by 4 walls. It's in the homes of people. The second most important thing that I've seen in terms of business environment changes, Swati talked about it, I call it collective responsibility. Because suddenly we recognize that it's not just us and our products and our people that are important, it is the community that we are in. And I think businesses have recognized this more than ever during the pandemic. And so from that perspective, I think if you ask me some of the drivers of reputation, and reputation continues to be important before the pandemic, it's important during the pandemic, it's important after. But I think definitely the community responsibility, I think, is going to be a big driver. How responsible are organizations? How responsive are they to the dynamics of the environment? I think, and looking at your entire supply chain, because it's not just about your employees today. Externally, it's also about your supply chains and how you're going to manage that. What are the kind of dynamics you're going to bring into place to kind of, communicate with them, talk, and I'd like to say, I mean, while, looked at employees, I would still say employees to me are the most important media and conduit to communication. So I still look at them. I don't necessarily look at them as just an internal kind of channel. I look at them as an external channel because they communicate far more to the outside world than any organization or any news channel will today. I believe so. And I think therefore that is another important aspect that we need to focus on. And in the pandemic, it's not just employees, it's employees and their families. And I think that's something that companies and organizations also need to be cognizant of. So to sum up, I mean, in terms of the 3 that I think of, I think it's the collective responsibility, the community responsibility, and how socially conscious you are. 2 is really managing and taking cognizance of the changes within the supplier environment. And 3rd is really the larger context of the employee, which is the family of the employee as well.
Thank you for sharing these key drivers, Melissa. And with that, I would like to move on to Shravani. And Shravani, you are a double lifetime achievement award winner when it comes to online reputation. Can you share with us your thoughts on, being a de-risker, analyst, and also an expert in brand management? What are some of the vital areas that our audience here, mainly from companies and educational institutes, should keep in mind when maintaining an online presence?
Thank you. Uh, Thank you, Samira. See, if I look at the new normal or what's happening in the pandemic, I think I agree with Melissa. I think we need to show that we are more empathetic. Companies need to show that, and tie that in whatever they're doing online. Um, just repeat the last two questions. I seem to have just lost them out.
Sure. You are also, when it comes to your reputation in terms of an expertise, you are a brand de-risker, an analyst, and an expert. So if you could guide us,
Okay.
yeah, on this.
So here's the thing, I think whether it's the pandemic or not, I think every organization at certain intervals, a certain point of their business lives, they need to look at themselves and see where they are. And I go back to Kefra's prism and I say, this is the image one has of oneself, but what is the image that others have? And that gives a reality and a sanity check. And depending on that, see where the gaps are, do a gap analysis, find where those things are, and those are triggers, build on those issues. Of course, one has to be authentic, make sure those are, it's not that I go and say that I'm very empathic when I'm not. Obviously you have to build it all as authentically as you can and maintain it like that. And in terms of social media presence, I think that's very pervasive now, and keeping fake news away and seeing how it impacts is what we all have to do. But it's sorry, can you just give me a minute? There's something, I think there's a insect or something that's biting me. Just give me a minute. It's very troublesome.
Yeah.
I think that should be the fake news.
No, there is something here which was like stung me, and I didn't know what it was under my desk. So I was most uncomfortable about it. So I just needed to check whether, a wasp or something has come in. So I would certainly think that we need to take a look at oneself, what we are, what others perceive us to be, what is the gap analysis show up, and maybe, just do some kind of a heat mapping and see where we can position ourselves.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shravani, for those insights. And Shekhar, over to you.
Thank you, Samira. I think it's a wonderful discussion, and we're getting a lot of response on the message box. And this is something which I think which we all are dealing with as we talk. I think Pearl is asking this question: what are some of the vital areas that organizations and educational institutions should keep in mind while maintaining an online presence? And how do we tackle that? Because this is a dilemma which I think everybody is facing. And I would love, any one of you to give your insights on this. Yes, ma'am.
So, I did handle in the education sector, and that's a tricky sector, because if you look at it, your target audience are not just your students and the institution and the academics and the people there and the management there. It's students and the parents, particularly in India. That's something we've seen, because the parents will influence the kids here, and then the relatives, and the third are the peers. So having that kind of a target audience, none of your stories or none of your content is one size fits all. So one has to gear it for all of them. And in terms of what are the things that can really trigger off issues on reputation, I have seen things like not having the right systems, whether it's in the hostels and residences, whether it's the academics, or whether it is the backward and forward integration of internships and jobs, etc., etc. And even small things like that, if the guard is left, he's not there at the main gate, somebody comes in and troubles the women there or something like that. So there are major issues in educational institutions. But the main thing is that they need to make sure that they balance all this out by getting the right credentials. And the right credentials would be, of course, how the students are doing and, the kind of salaries the students are get, but also how they are ranked in India and internationally. The rankings really matter. Because and one of the ways to build a good reputation is for to have a share of voice in what's happening in the education sector, and speaking on topics, speaking on what's happening in the country, as well as managing students' expectations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Shekhar, I want to add a point here.
Organization. Sorry.
Please, Anand sir, please.
Yeah, I think one area that, be it organization or institutions, that all of us has to put a lot of effort is on the mental stability.
Yeah.
Right. Today, the emotional aspect when you are actually teaching or when you are actually getting your team working upon online, there is a lot of, the mental stress is actually taken over, right? And this where I think many people have been able to fail and they're not able to succeed or they're not able to cope up. So this is a vital area that, all of us has to put a lot of effort in order to bring upon what exact changes can make this online can be a sustainable, because we have seen both positive and negative about work from home or online education. But same time that coping up is what is actually is been confused. There are, it is a complete confused state of mind from both sides. I would say it's a double-edged sword for at the moment, but if we can resolve this, I think it's a best hybrid version which will come up soon. It will be both work from home and online education will pick up big time.
Absolutely.
Sorry, there's some sound coming. I couldn't hear the last couple of words that you said.
So so I think Anand sir basically summarized it by saying there needs to be some kind of balance which has to be maintained in terms of online and offline, because this has to be a sustainable model in the future, like a hybrid model, right? Right, sir?
Absolutely.
Yes, but you already have that. If you look at before the pandemic, there was distance education. It's now moved completely away from that, and it's all online education. And I think everybody is trying to cope. I don't think there any easy answers there. Of course, there are counselors, but even the teachers, even the academics, even the people who work in the university, the admin staff, everybody is going through a sea change of trying to handle it. The students themselves, I think the fatigue of being online all the time, not being able to interact with human beings, not being able to have that one-to-one connection, of course, it's impacting them. But do we have all the answers? I don't think so.
Absolutely. And
counseling is there. I mean, they're doing online counseling all the time, and teachers are there, and your psychiatrists are there, and other trained counselors. But I don't think we have any easy answers on that. It's still work in progress. I'm sorry to say that.
Can I comment on organizations? Because I think the question was both organizations and educational institutions. And I just want to comment in the context of the pandemic again, because I think it's very important to look at how organizations position or reposition online presence during the pandemic. And I can just give you an example from us, because I think that tone of empathy, compassion, concern that we talked about had to extend right across. It wasn't just what you were saying internally, but it was equally important externally. And for instance, our organization, we actually put a halt right in the first stage of the pandemic. For about 2 weeks, we put a halt to all our social media posts, because we did not want to kind of, crowd the space with more noise. And when we resumed, we had what we call text traps around all our posts. And there were various introductions based on the kind of posts, but it all related to our concern around what was happening. That was one. Two, I think we were very clear that we shouldn't be seen as opportunistic. So we didn't do any posts that promoted our services or our products or whatever. So I think those are, and then it was business as usual. But we did the same thing in India when the second wave, we took a break. And I think those are important things. So your social media presence is also determined by what's happening in the environment. It's not just what you want to say, but what is good to say, and the collectivity and on about what's happening in the environment. So when I talk about the collective responsibility, this is also a part of it.
Yeah, I think I'll agree to what Melissa pointed out, but I think also the question was, should we be there in the first place to stay relevant? And one of the things is that social media, I will take it as an opportunity to be an own media and an opportunity to tell your stories, because there are so many stories when we talk about the way we do things, the way the people's stories that come out, the real authentic stories that come from the people. So I think to stay relevant, an online presence is absolutely required. But of course, depending on the situation, to stay authentic, to stay empathetic. To be honest, in communications, the organizations that I have worked in have always taken an empathetic route to communicate. It's just being inclusive. It's about decency. It's about empathetic. It's about being inclusive. So I whenever, like all my 16 years of experience, I've never felt that that anything has gone out which has not had an empathy element to it. And I think it's more important now than ever before.
I think those are wonderful insights shared, and I would like to now drive the conversation from something which is extremely positive to an area of concern where I feel you all can really lead the way and make a difference. And this is a question that I would like to pose to all of you out here. If you could revert back in 1 or 2 sentences, that would be great. The question is, how do we handle online negative reputation in your companies? I want to start with companies first, and then we'll move on to the personal branding later. So my question again is, if there is any negative feedback that is put online in your companies or your corporate brands, how would you address it? Who would like to start?
So I'll take it, because social media is a double-edged sword. You can't afford not to be on it, but if you're on it, you're definitely going to get these comments. In some organizations where this debate has happened, I think what I say is, but it's also a great way to listen to your customers, to your stakeholders, and there will be people that will take up the smallest issue and make like a really big deal out of it. And I always stand by the fact that we have to be authentic. We can't kind of gas our way through it. If we have made a mistake, it is up to us to own up to it and fix the problem. But also, you can't afford not to be on social media in anticipation of any negative comment, because one, it creates a thought leadership space for you, your own media, where you talk about yourself, you talk about your values, you talk about your products. And if there is some negative feedback, well, it is also that space where you hear back from your customers or your dealers or your suppliers or whatever. So I think it's important to own that mistake if you've made a mistake, and put up an authentic response in return and see how you can fix the situation. I know it's very easy to say, it's very, very difficult when it happens in real life. And, when I was with General Motors, we were drowned in crisis every single day. And there were many times that we thought, we're going to delete this comment. But we stood by the fact that no, we're not going to delete any comment because it is real feedback from our customers. And then we will fix that problem and come back and, post about what we did to fix it. But I don't think it's a good idea to say, oh, we will not be on social media or we will delete negative comments, because that actually goes against the purpose of why you are on social media in the first place. And it's not authentic, it's not honest. So that's what I think.
So to all of you out there listening,
The problem I think
No,
happens
I just want
is
to add
when
to Swati's
is when
point. Shavini, I just wanted to add to Swati's point. I actually completely, I agree with her.
Yeah,
You can't,
yeah,
you
go
can
ahead.
not do it. You have to, you have to put your point out there. You need facts. So you need to go in and there and say something is okay or not okay. But I think going back to the point that I think Melissa also spoke about at that point in time, who is that ecosystem that you're championing who can be there on social media for you, right? So it could be employees, it could be your customers, it could be influencers who are possibly following your brand, and you've built this group of influencers. So I think there's when a crisis hits, all of these should have been running the entire time when you didn't have a crisis. So I think building it while you have good times is the most important thing to be doing. So I think you should
Totally.
face it, but at the same time you need to keep all your other, the entire ecosystem ready and prepared for a time like this. So I just
thank you,
wanted
Shruti. Wonderful insight shared.
Yeah, because the groundswell is very important. However, the problem occurs when when it's fake, or it is or they are personal attacks.
Yeah.
If it's about a product or if it's about service, one can still handle it, because you can say, okay, we made a mistake, like Swati said, and we've corrected it, and here we are. I get very concerned about when I see certain things. Now, let's take the example of what happened to Byju's. There were certain attacks on them, and we all know that they managed to handle it and whatever. Whether we agree with what they're doing or not, that's a separate issue. So I think more the concern is things like this. And one way is, of course, to take it to the legal way. One way is to say that it is not correct. But or the other way is to just say, listen, I'm not going to do anything about it. The right thing will come up. But the fact is that you can't let those be, and one has to handle them and come out and say this is wrong. Whether we take it on social media or traditional media, those have to be corrected. And those are really very worrisome.
Sure.
I think I agree, Samira, and I think whether traditional media or whether social media, the tenets remain the same. It's just that online, that your speed of response needs to be faster.
Yeah,
So I think the advantage of online, and as Swati said, is the opportunity. The opportunity you have to build bridges, to correct it, to form relationships, and to do it, but I think that fact finding is critical and is the basic to anything, any kind of representation.
Anand, do you agree with Melissa when she talks about fact finding and then commenting on it? What are your
Absolutely. I was just about to say the sensitivity is all about how quickly you respond and how effectively you respond, right? Be it anything. We cannot shy away from whatever it is, maybe a personal attack, or it could be for the organization level. We need to respond irrespective either, but how quickly you respond is what matters online. Otherwise,
But
Anand,
Anand,
carry forward,
Anand, we as communicators can only advise. I can go up to someone and say, listen, this is a personal attack, or this is it. This is what I think we should do. Here's what we've already done, and here's what we can achieve. And then the trouble actually happens when somebody says, let's just leave it as it is.
It definitely
or
is.
says, okay,
it's
I'll take
sensitive.
it some other way. So,
yeah.
And that convincing the C-suite is what really shows up the communications or the marketing person's skills, really, because we have to convince the C-suite for this.
Samira, I also feel that there is, once you're on social media, there's no backing off from getting negative or positive comments or whatever. But I think more than the response or the reaction, it also depends on which social media it is. For example, if a lot of employers worry about what's written on Glassdoor, you could actually use it as a tool to find out if they're telling the truth. So when you don't have internal resources where you can share feedback, it's when people go outside and speak. And sometimes you'll be surprised at what you find. So it's not the negative feedback which we get is not always against us. It could be something that could be constructive as well. So it really depends on the response, our reaction, or our building up of reputation. All depends on which social media we're looking at.
Great insights.
And how quickly we react actually.
True.
Because time is of the essence in that one, and with channels and how many channels and how quickly one can assess all that.
And with that, Shekhar has some fireside chat with you to start with. Over to you, Shekhar.
Yeah, Samir, I don't know about the fireside, but I'm sure the questions you're going to ask next is going to get everybody involved. Now, as all of you are talking, it really made me think a lot. We spoke about emotional intelligence. We spoke about being kind. We spoke about being exclusively inclusive. And I do a lot of work with children. I conduct workshops for children. And I've realized there's a lot of emotional intelligence which one sees. And I think that's going to be the number one attribute as we talk. It's not about intelligence quotient, it's about your emotional intelligence. And as brands, I think that's really important. And on that note, I wanted to ask each one of you, during this lockdown, obviously we have seen movies, we have read books, we have created our favorite dishes. And I wanted to ask each one of you, as we talk, Samira sent me a message. We speaks about Netflix or Amazon Prime. So if I have to ask, say, Mr. Anand, sir, what's it for you? Is it Netflix or Amazon Prime? What's the first word which comes to your mind?
I think Netflix.
Netflix. Swati ji, Starbucks or Costa Coffee?
Costa Coffee. I'm a very India person, so yeah.
Okay. Shruti ma'am, work hard or play hard?
Always play hard.
Absolutely. Even I completely agree with that. Infinite chocolate or infinite coffee?
Oh, are you talking to me?
Samira.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is filter coffee, Shekhar.
Filter coffee. All right. Oasis or Blur? Shravani ji. I think this is from Samira's poem, I think. Oasis or Blur, or a book she's written. Shravani ma'am, is it an oasis or a blur for you? I think we've gone into a blur moment. I think we've lost them. Yeah. So while she gets a connection back, Melissa ji, city break or beach holiday? Ma'am, you're on mute.
I'm sure she said beach holiday.
Beach holiday.
Hands down.
Any day.
Any day.
Any day.
So, Samira, on that beach holiday note, whenever you're taking us next, please go on. Yes, Samira.
Sir, we have such an active audience of people from all walks of life who are with us. So I would like to request all of you kindly switch on your cameras and join the discussion, because now we have a quiz for you all put together. So who wants to go first? Requesting you to kindly unmute yourselves. And this question, we will start off by asking Krishna Panika. Krishna, I see that you're very active and you're putting a lot of posts out there, questions as well. My question to you is, save or spend? What would you prefer during this time and age?
It can be both.
I want to save.
Wonderful.
Ma'am,
and we have Theodore with us. Theodore, save or spend?
I want to save it.
Spend.
And keeping in mind, the concept of spending, back to our communication professionals. A lot of businesses are opening, bustling again. This, with the vaccination in place. What are you going to strategize at your companies? Are you going to go into robust brand building once again, by shelling out some money to promote your businesses once again, or are you going to take the conservative approach of going more organic and then seeing how it works with? I would like to ask Shruti.
It's interesting you ask because we are one of those businesses, at least where the company I work with, we pivoted when COVID hit us. So from a B2B business, we became a B2C business. So, to answer your question, what does that mean then for us? I think we've realized that organic is the way to go, but you can't not do that much of your basic PR and again, like we spoke about, what are you going to do on social media, and so some of the basics are there, but organic strategy is really the way to go. I think what we're doing with the community, for example, when we pivoted, it was also about are we doing a purpose-led business transformation, and that is why we're sort of shifting to what we want to do. So that has suddenly become a very big focus area for us. So I think this pandemic has got all of us really taking that next step to think about,
Yes.
I know we have to pivot because the business demands it, and if you want to survive, this is what you need to do. But secondly, are you doing something that's are you going to be around for the next 5 years, and is it going to be worthwhile for your customer, and are you really going to truly enable lives? I think that's the question. At least I know we're asking ourselves, which we probably didn't ask ourselves. Yeah.
Wonderful when you share a very authentic experience, Shruti, because to all the marketing professionals out here, that's something that they can learn from you. And over to you, Swati. Do you share the same, perceptions as what Shruti has just mentioned?
So again, like Shruti said, it depends on the nature of your business. For a B2C business, while organic is important, we will have to still do the paid promotions. We'll still have to do our commercials and social media and influencers and all of that. So part of our business is B2C, it's an FMCG business. So that will happen there. But I think larger as a group, we will very much change the way we communicate to purpose-led, to authentic. We've started doing a lot of leadership communications because we think that the way your leadership comes across, if they come across as empathetic, thoughtful, and really caring about the community, I think it will lead to a lot more brand loyalty. So as a group, it will be more organic, it will be more purpose-led, it will be more community-led. But yeah, some brands, I mean, the B2C brands will probably have to do what they have to do, and that's fine. So that's what I'd say.
Great. And let me ask Anand. Anand, what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I mean, both the panelists rightly mentioned. So as a B2B company, there is a completely game-changing aspects because you have to go back organically because one side you are actually trying back to regain the momentum. But on the B2C side, it is completely, you need to portray yourself in the perspective of that how much you can contribute back to the ecosystem in all stakeholder perspective. So it's a perfect blend of doing organic and also inorganic way, but definitely organic way will be the right manner to go ahead.
Wonderful. And with that, I would like to ask Melissa. Melissa, what has been one of your most challenging moments, if you can share, through your career, in the field of communication, to provide insights to our students out here? Through your career, what has been one of the biggest challenges that you have faced so far?
So I wouldn't point it down to one specific client or one specific issue, but I think the biggest challenge has always been and continues to be, getting trust and confidence in the value of communications or PR. And that continues to be a challenge because a lot of organizations today still look at PR equated to the amount of coverage that you get. And I think those things have to change. And I think that's always been a challenge, People want to see the number of clips, the number of reports, the number of stories you've done. And that's not communications. There have been times when we've handled campaigns where there's not even been one news report that's come out of it. And they've still been successful campaigns. So I see that as has always been the biggest challenge and still continues to be the biggest challenge for our industry.
Wonderful. Great insight shared. And now a question to all of you back again. If there is one thing that you could reflect on in reputation management, personal or professional, one thing that you could reflect on when it comes to reputation management, what would it be? I would like to start by asking Shekhar, because Shekhar, you're a celebrity in your own right. You are all over the world. You're on Republic TV almost every day and many other news channels. What is the one thing that you reflect on?
So I think the one thing I reflect on, like I said earlier, I think is emotional intelligence. I think emotional intelligence never really got its due. And I think companies and brands need to understand that. And I think this moment during the pandemic has allowed us to pause and reflect about where we are and where we want to be. I think it's a silver lining in the cloud. This moment of all of us being in this pandemic has allowed us just to step back a bit, spend time with our loved ones. I'm sure my dog is really happy spending time with me, likewise. And you also get to understand what life is really about. Life is, like I always believe, you don't win the silver, you lose the gold. But somewhere it's not always about the gold. It could be about the platinum. It's essentially about understanding yourself internally. And I think that's very important. I think brands and as human beings, we all need to understand what we are made of. And that takes a bit of time, because once you know yourself inside out, you are your own competition. And this is a message to all the students out there. Don't get bothered by what you see around you. If you social media, because there's a lot of information out there. The point of the matter is very simple. How well do you understand yourself? What kind of mentors do you have? And how do you want to chart your journey ahead? Enjoy each and every moment when you encounter it. That's something I've learned from my dog, because she's very, very, she lives in the moment. She doesn't live in the past or the future. And her objective is just to go for that carrot. And I think that's something very simple you learn from them, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Mind over matter.
Great, Shekhar. I think those are wonderful insights shared. And before we end, if I can ask you all, what is the one message that you would like to communicate to all of us out here? I would like to start by asking Ira.
I suppose it's in the context of communication that the message that we want to get. So I think I'll just go back to the question that you asked earlier about reputation. When it comes to individuals, right? A reputation, we always look at it two ways. One is there is gone with the wind kind of a saying where it says, until and unless I lost my reputation, I didn't know what a burden it was. And then there is another saying which says that it takes years to build a reputation and minutes to spoil it. So, it really is up to you which way you want to go. And to be very inclusive, both are okay. But as communicators, it's essential for us to build our own reputation while we also build the organization's reputation. So that's my message.
Wonderful, Ira. And now over to Shravani.
I think Samira Shravani is facing a bit of a problem because of ants in her house. And yeah.
Shravani?
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's whatever. So I think for me, the most important thing now is to be relevant. We have to keep being relevant in whatever situation we are in, whether it's COVID, post-COVID, or before that. So just be relevant.
Thank you. Thank you. And on that relevant note, very quickly, I think we come to the last part of this. Very quickly, during this pandemic, we saw a lot of movies, we read a lot of books. Any book which you read, which has left an impact on your life, which allows you to reflect, rethink and recreate. Anand sir, we'll start with you.
I would like to answer the previous question as well. Yeah. I had one thing that I want to communicate to all. I think all these days we used to say that, live for others and take care of, everything. But I would say pandemic has given us and shown us many things. But one thing that we will take away is that be strong for yourself, be healthy, take care of all your aspects. If you are happy, then the entire world is happy around you. because that's one thing that we have seen. Because neither money nor the people, nobody can come and help you. You are alone all the while. I think that's one thing that you have to take care of yourself. Is be strong, be healthy, and be happy forever.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question you asked.
Sir, I think it's almost like an aircraft announcement when the pilot, when you take off on the flight, they say you need to take care of yourself first and then others. I think that's what we are dealing with right now. I think it's very important to be happy internally. But on that happy note, I want to ask you any book which you have read, which has left an impact with you, which allows you to reflect, recreate, and rethink.
Well, I was reading a lot of my technology books though, but one thing that I was trying to read again is the Monk Who Sold Ferrari, which is actually always recoups your energy and mind. I think, and that I always been cherished upon.
Thank you, sir. Swati ji, what about you?
So I'm a big reader. I read a lot, but in terms of business, I think one book that I read recently is a book called Outside Insight by John Lessigan, which talks about big data and how we can make sense of it and use it. So that I found very useful in terms of business. Other than that, I'm a big reader, so I read a lot of books all the time. So yeah.
Thank you. Sophie, ma'am.
Got the Azan behind me, but not a book, but a series that I think I've really reflected, recreated, and rethinking about currently is The Bold Type. I really like that one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really giving me so many perspectives of people management and relationships, and it's a fantastic one. Yeah. Swati, we should connect on that.
Yep. Awesome one. Yeah.
What about you?
Sorry, who?
Ira.
Yeah, okay. So I also read a lot, but I don't read business. I mean, I do read economy and business and news and all that, but not in books. But I just came back to my hill in Sikkim and some time back, and I was just looking around to see has anyone left any book somewhere to read, because I didn't bring my Kindle or anything. I surprisingly found Walden by Thoreau, and I was looking at it and I'm thinking, I'm sitting in the middle of a forest and there is some guy who's written a book sitting in the middle of a forest, talking to villagers who actually don't know what to do. So I'm really into that book right now. It's very difficult to read because there are tons of things to do, but every day I put in some effort to just go through that book. I think that's going to be influencing me a lot for some time.
Melissa, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'd relate this to what the pandemic has been for me. I mean, I've honestly found it very difficult to read, but I found a lot of solace and comfort in nature. And I have birds around me. So I've been observing and photographing birds during this entire 1 year. And it's been a very reflective, but also a very peaceful and comforting, pastime. And so I've read this book called A Short Philosophy of Birds, which is all about the wisdom of birds and the wisdom that nature can teach us and impart to us. And I think that's the book that I'd like to really talk about.
Interesting, very interesting perspective. Samira, what about you?
Well, I love to read a lot, Shekhar, and currently I'm reading the book by Samuel Granville on the art of living. So, just looking at deeper insights into how best to manage life and keep myself as happy and make people around me happy.
Thank you. And I should add this. I've been reading The Art of War, which is very interesting.
I have to tell you, I have rereading The Art of War, Sun Tzu, and it's given me different, I think one should reread it periodically, because depending on what stage of life you're in, it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I think, ma'am, The Art
So
of War.
I actually got my copy, The Art of War. I was just going to tell you that it's there. I just finished it. And it takes a long time to read, because even if it's 2 or 3 lines, you've got to understand it and internalize it. But it's been a great thing. I mean, I also listen to it on a podcast when I go for a walk. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and The Art of War. There's a copy on my desk right now.
Thank you. I also have a copy.
Sun Tzu, I think, should be a book that should be read by everybody.
Absolutely. I think the art of almost like the fountainhead of today.
The Art of War.
Because the Art of War changes your perspective on strategy as you read it. It's like almost like the fountainhead. This is for all the students. When you read the fountainhead at the age of 60,
Absolutely.
when you read at the age of 20, 25, your perspective on life changes automatically. So Samira, on that lively note, all yours.
Yeah, we would love to thank you all for being with us today. And it's been a very informative session. I think a lot of lessons learned. And it's great that you all have shared insights. Amazing, Shravani. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, wonderful.
Samira, if you permit me, I'd like to make a little plug here. For women in communications and PR, Melissa, Shravani, Ira, and Shruti and I are all part of Global Women in PR. It's a great organization. So if you're a woman in communications or PR, check us out. I mean, I can't let this opportunity go because all of us are here together. So do see if you would like to join us because it's a great organization.
Well, I was
And
the
there's great
outlier, yeah.
learning and there's great networking on it. You must
Yes.
join. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. And on that note, Anand BR, Shravani Dang, Shruti Bopaya, Ira Pradhan, Swati Bhattacharya, and Melissa Arulapan. Wonderful having you all with us at the S Factor Talk Show, a show where we look at deliberating and discussing issues, challenges, and finding solutions to things that affect our community, our industry, and hopefully bringing about positive change in our community one step at a time. And before we conclude, and before we go to the audience, I just want to quickly thank our supporters. And we wish all those who have come here with us can also come on board as our partners too. Ecosol Global, Elephant Marketing, Shevens Entertainment, Sunshine Bakers, Jagriti, IJ Enablers, Peppercoin, Boopalam Botanical, Cicada Media, Do Reborn, Threadwork, Transform, Motherhood, I Am Here, and most importantly, News Karnataka for featuring this. On behalf of all of us here, we wish you all a wonderful, momentous week ahead and look forward to bringing us all together as we join the S Factor next week with news media as well. So Pearl, thank you so much for supporting us, and also to Bambino and the rest of yours, Mr. Valerian and all of you. Thank you so much and goodbye. The show is
Thank you all. It's a pleasure meeting you all.
wonderful. The show
Thank you.
but
Thanks
stay
so
back.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
A second.